John stood at the edge of the dusty arena and took a deep breath. The heat of the twin suns pressed down on him. His rusted armor felt heavy on his shoulders. He could hear the chatter from the crowded stands. Alien voices rose and fell in strange patterns. Some voices laughed. Others shouted insults. He did not read their words. He only felt their mockery like a wave against his skin. His armor rattled when he shifted. The dents in the metal dug into his arms. The paint was flaking. Rust colored every joint and seam. John had inherited the suit from an old friend who had fallen in battle. He carried it now with pride and respect. A tall figure in bright blue robes approached him. It was Lisa, the medic. She knelt beside him and ran her hand over his gauntlet. Her eyes were gentle. She had cared for many warriors on this world. But she always treated John with a kindness he rarely saw elsewhere. They spoke in quiet tones. John did not want the crowd to hear. He said, "I do not know if this will work." His voice sounded small under the roar of the stands. Lisa smiled. "It will work. Trust yourself." "Trust what you have learned?" John nodded. He looked out at the sand. It lay white like bones in the midday sun. The arena floor was shaped like a circle. Jagged stones formed its walls. High pillars rose evenly around it. Bright flags snapped in the hot wind. The crowds? Colors shifted from green to purple to gold. Many alien races came here to watch games of strength and skill. Varg, the host, had a voice that boomed across the arena. He spoke in a language John only partly understood. Still, he heard the words that mattered. "Look at this human," Varg said. "His gear looks old, his steel is weak. He will fall before he stands." The crowd cheered. John felt cold inside. He tightened his grip on the spear in his hand. The wood was sturdy, the metal head was chipped and dull. He could have asked for a loaner weapon. The arena gave options for a fee, but he had no credits left. He only had his broken spear and old armor. He remembered why he was here. His people had crossed 1,000 systems. They had fled a dying homeworld. Many had stayed behind. The survivors boarded a battered fleet. They fought starvation, storms, and pirate raids. They had risked everything to reach this world. Now they settled on its fringe. The arena offered fame and prizes. It offered shelter and food. It offered a chance for John to prove himself. If he won, he could win a place in the city. He could find work. He could help his people. He closed his eyes and saw the wreck of his ship. The flames, the screams. The moment he vowed to do more than survive, he opened his eyes again. The sun shone on the arena wall. He shook his head, clearing the past. A bell rang. John climbed up the ramp of stones. His boots slid on the sand. He reached the center of the circle. On the other side, his opponent waited. The alien was twice his height. Green skin gleamed under the sun. Muscles bulged under spotted hide. Two horns curved back from his brow. He held a spear of bright alloy. The tip glowed in the light. John faced him. He felt small. He felt vulnerable. But he stood tall. His breath came in slow, steady lines. He looked the alien in the eyes. He saw confidence. He saw hunger for victory. The referee, a lean insect-like being, held up two flags. One was red. One was blue. He waved them in a swift motion. The crowds. Noise fell for a moment. Then it rose again. Lisa watched from the gate. She placed a hand on the stone. She whispered, "Be ready." John raised his spear in both hands. The alien lunged. Metal clashed. Sparks flew when the alien's spear struck John's shield. The dented circle of steel shook. John staggered, but held his ground. He sensed how the bone in his arm shifted the weight. He shifted his stance. The alien attacked again. John sidestepped. He moved faster than expected. The crowd gasped. Another blow crashed against his shield. John pressed forward. He jabbed his spear. The tip met the alien's thigh. It did not pierce deep, but it cut enough to draw a dark drip of fluid. The alien roared. A red mist rose from the wound. He swung his alloy spear in a wide arc. John ducked. The metal wind overhead. He rolled across the sand. His armor scraped on the ground. Pain shot through his shoulder. He got up. He breathed in hard. He tasted grit in his mouth. He wiped his brow with a gauntlet. The alien charged. Again, This time John braced his shield and met the blow head-on. His feet sank in the sand. He pushed with all his strength. The alien stumbled. John thrust forward. The broken spearhead shattered against the alien's cuirass. The metal cracked and bent. A shard flew off and cut the alien's forearm. The alien's eyes widened in surprise. The crowd fell silent. No one expected the ancient human blade to harm the champion. John felt his heart race. He raised his shield to block another strike. He pressed the advantage. Every swing of his spear was filled with purpose. Each parry held more weight than the metal it carried. The alien's breathing grew heavy. His movement slowed. He tried to lift his weapon, but his arm shook. John steadied himself. His armor rang with every breath he took. He held the broken spear like a promise. He remembered Lisa's words, "Trust your instincts." With a final push, John drove the spear point into the alien's shoulder. The creature fell to one knee. The fall sent sand flying. He looked up at John with a mix of pain and respect. The referee signaled an end. The crowd stayed silent for a heartbeat, then they erupted. Some cheered, some stared. All eyes were on the human. John lowered his spear and stood still. His chest rose and fell. His armor was scuffed and cracked. His arms ached from the fight. But he was alive. He turned and saw Lisa running toward the center. She reached him and wrapped her arms around his waist. He felt relief wash over him. The host, Varg, stepped into the arena. He nodded to John, then he knelt, bowing his head in respect. The crowd roared again, this time in approval. John straightened his back. He lifted his eyes to the sky. The speckled stars would appear soon. They would shine on his victory. He smiled, feeling hope return. He had faced the ridicule of 1,000 voices. He had overcome them with courage and skill. He knew this was only the first step, but it was a step away from fear and toward a new life. John stood at the edge of the arena and breathed deeply. His victory still echoed in his mind. He felt pride and fear together. The hot wind blew sand into his eyes. He blinked and looked down at his rusted armor. It bore more scratches now. It was more scarred than ever, but it felt lighter in his heart. Lisa led him away from the crowd. She guided him through a narrow exit under the stone wall. The noise faded behind them. John felt sweat cool on his skin. He raised his hand to wipe his brow. The wind carried the smell of dust and sweat. They reached a small tent at the arena edge. Inside, medics and armor workers waited with simple tools. The tent was crowded. Other fighters paused their work to watch John. Their eyes were curious. Some still doubted him. Others nodded in quiet respect. John sat on a low bench. Lisa knelt in front of him. She examined his wounds first. She cleaned the cut on his arm. Then she studied his torn fabric under the armor. She whispered, "You did well, but you must rest." John shook his head. "I want to repair my armor first." Lisa frowned. "Later, you need food and water." He sighed and allowed her to help. A medic gave him a small bowl of broth and a piece of bread. John ate slowly. He closed his eyes and savored the warmth in his stomach. It was simple food, but he felt it strengthen him. After he ate, Lisa stood up. "Come," she said. "The Lord of the Arena seeks you." John followed her out. He walked under bright banners and past echoing chambers. The path led to a high room carved in stone. Torches lit the walls. Strange symbols hung along each side. The air was cool here. At the room's end stood Varg. The host wore robes of blue and silver. He held a wooden staff carved with swirling lines. His green skin glowed in the torchlight. He looked calm and serious. John bowed his head. Varg extended a hand. "Rise, human. You have surprised me." John straightened. Varg gestured to a low throne made of pale stone. "Sit, we must speak." John obeyed. Varg leaned on his staff and spoke in clear common. "You faced Kor and won. You used an old spear and rusted armor. You beat our champion." "This has never happened before." John swallowed. "Thank you." Varg nodded. "You will fight again soon, but first you will train." John stood. "Train? My victory was enough." The host shook his head. "You must learn our ways. You must fight twice as hard if you wish to survive." John understood. "I will do it." Varg smiled. Good. Starting tomorrow, you join the city's trial circle. You will learn from our best fighters. You will learn to use your spear and shield with more skill. Lisa stepped forward. He will need time to rest. Varg looked at her. He can rest in the circle's quarters. I have arranged it, Lisa relaxed. Thank you. John felt tired, but proud. Varg turned back to him. Go now. Sleep and eat. Tomorrow the real tests begin. John bowed and left the chamber with Lisa. He walked back through dark corridors. His mind spun with questions. What tests? Who would he face? Would other fighters respect him now? They returned to the tent. John lay on a cot. The fabric was rough, but it was soft compared to the arena floor. He closed his eyes. Lisa watched him for a moment. Then she left silently. John tried to sleep, but his mind wandered. He thought of his homeworld. He thought of the ship that crashed. He remembered the faces of his lost friends. He felt sorrow and guilt. But he also felt something new. He felt hope. He saw a vision of his people living. Without fear, he saw children playing under blue skies. He saw himself standing tall, helmet raised, cheering at the horizon. He wanted that future. He drifted into a light sleep. Morning came with a soft glow through the tent flap. John woke and sat up. His body ached, but he felt ready. He stretched his arms. He rubbed his neck. He looked around at the other fighters. They readied their weapons. Some warmed up with light sparring. A tall alien with orange scales walked toward John. He had a long tail and sharp claws. He carried a spear like John's, but his tip was new and bright. The alien tapped John's shoulder. John turned. The alien's eyes narrowed. He did not smile. You are the human who beat Kor, the alien said in rough common. His voice was deep. I am Tenzin. I fight in the circle. You belong with us now? John nodded. I am John. Sen looked John's armor. He touched the rusted metal. This will break soon. You need better gear? John crossed his arms. I have none. Sen snorted. The circle will offer you new armor, but you will train bare first. You must prove your skill. John relaxed slightly. I understand. Sen walked away. John watched him leave. He felt nervous, but he also felt alive. A voice called his name. Lisa stood near the entrance. She held 2 metal bars linked with leather straps. Here, she said. These are training weights. You will use them to build strength. John took the weights. They were heavy. He lifted them once, then twice. His arms shook. Lisa smiled. Good. Use them every morning. John nodded and set them down. He looked at her. Thank you, Lisa. She touched his arm. Be careful. You have work to do. John watched her walk away. He turned to face the open space. The circles. Stone ring lay in the center. Narrow steps led up to a high platform. Other fighters stood on the steps. They eyed him with curiosity. John stepped into the ring. He raised his spear and shield. He felt their weight in his hands. He shook his head to clear doubt. He remembered Varg's words, You will learn our ways. He took a deep breath and prepared. For his first training, the path ahead was hard, he knew that. But he felt ready to walk it. He raised his back and held his head high. The sands of the arena and the circle would test him. He would face new opponents. He would grow stronger. He stepped forward, and the circle's door closed behind him. Part 3. John stood in the center of the training circle. The morning sun felt warm on his back. He held the heavy weights at his side. The sand beneath his boots was soft from the early heat. He knew he must work harder than any other fighter. Here, his rusted armor and broken spear made him stand out. A horn sounded. From the steps, 2 fighters entered. One was tall and thin with silver skin. The other was short and wide with red scales. Both wore bright new armor. They carried long spears with gleaming heads. The silver one smiled at John. The red one sniffed his armor. The silver fighter said, Welcome, human. I am Sari. I will go easy on you. John nodded and raised his shield. Sari lunged. John blocked the thrust with the weights. He felt the metal jolt in his grip. He dropped the weights and drew his spear. Sari stepped back, surprised. The red fighter growled. No honor in that fight, she said. She charged John. He met her attack squarely. Metal clashed against metal. The red fighter shoved John back. John stumbled but did not fall. They circled each other. John held his shield high. He felt sweat trickle down his neck. The red fighter swung her spear. John ducked and swung his own. The broken head sliced through the air. It nicked her arm. The red fighter howled in pain. SCR moved behind John. He jabbed at John's back. John twisted his body and blocked with his shield. He felt the impact shake his arm. He stepped forward and thrust the spear between Sari's guard. The tip cut. The silver skin. Sari hissed. The trainers watched from above. Their faces were stern. One trainer spoke in a low tone. He fights with heart, but his form is weak. John heard the words. He steadied his breath. He raised his shield and spear. The red fighter charged again. He sidestepped and parried. He felt his confidence grow. With each move, he remembered his people's struggle. He fought not just for himself, but for them. He kicked the red fighter's shin. She stumbled. He thrust the spear into her side. She dropped her spear and fell to her knees. Sari backed away with wide eyes. John lowered his spear and shield. The trainers blew a whistle. The fight ended. John stood tall amid the sand. His armor was scuffed. His spearhead was bent. But he felt stronger after the match. John rested by the edge of the circle. Lisa handed him water. He drank without pause. His body warmed with each gulp. He felt his muscles loosen. Lisa said, "You are improving, but you must train your form." John nodded. "What must I do?" Lisa pointed to a mat on the ground. It had lines drawn on it. Footwork. Guard stance. "Practice here?" John stood on the mat. He lifted his right foot. He felt awkward. The sand under his boots made the lines hard to see. He drew a line in the sand. He shifted his feet along it. He practiced raising and lowering his shield. He moved his spear in wide circles. A trainer approached. He wore white robes and carried a small rod. He tapped John's shoulder. "Your form needs work. Stand straight. Keep your elbow up." John adjusted his stance. He held the shield closer. He lifted his elbow higher. He remembered Lisa's words. He imagined the path of the spear in his mind. The trainer tapped his rod again. "Better. Now fight me." He dropped a wooden training spear. John picked it up. It was light and smooth. He balanced it in his hand. The trainer assumed a guard stance. John lunged. The trainer blocked. John tried again. The trainer twisted the spear aside. John took a step back and held his guard. The trainer sawed. "Good, now thrust forward with your whole body." John shifted his weight. He stepped forward and drove the spear. The trainer blocked again. John felt the wooden spear vibrate with the hit. The trainer smiled. "Your form is stronger. Keep practicing." John bowed and returned to the mat. He practiced the same moves over and over. He felt his muscles burn. But he did not stop until the trainers nodded and the sun was high. He sat down and rested. He looked at the other fighters. They trained in groups. Some did sparring. Others lifted weights. All wore new gear. John looked at his rusted armor and torn fabric. He felt pride. His people had little, but he carried what they had given him. A voice called him. Sen approached with a pouch at his belt. He reached inside and pulled out a small, flat piece of metal. It glinted in the sunlight. "This," Sen said, "is a gift." John took it. It was a plate of bright steel. It fit over his chest. Sen helped him attach it to his armor. The new plate covered a dent on John's breast. The metal was smooth. It caught the sun's rays. John thanked him. "Why help me?" Tizien shrugged. "You proved yourself. Now you are one of us." John smiled. He felt the weight of the plate against his chest. It felt like a new beginning. That evening, Lisa brought John a bowl of stew and bread. He ate slowly and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange and purple. He thought of tomorrow's challenges. He knew he had far to go. He had to learn more moves, more techniques. He had to understand his own strength. But he felt hope. He looked at his reflection in a small shard of mirror Lisa held. He saw his face smeared with dirt. His eyes were tired but bright. He nodded to himself. He stood and walked to the tent door. He looked up at the stars. He whispered, "For them." He returned to his cot. He closed his eyes and prepared for sleep. His dreams were filled with lessons and fights. He saw himself moving with grace, not weight. He saw the spear flow like water. He slept under the glow of the moon. He rested knowing that each dawn brought him closer to his goal. The journey was hard, but he had courage and heart, and that would carry him forward. John woke before dawn. A pale light filtered into the tent. His muscles ached from the previous day's training. He stretched and rose to his feet. He looked at his armor laid out on the bench. The new steel plate glinted softly. His old suit felt lighter now. He dressed quietly. He tightened the straps on his chest plate and tested the new pieces. Each movement felt smoother. He picked up his spear and walked outside. The courtyard was empty except for Lisa. She held a small bowl of water. "Morning," she said softly. "Eat first." John sat on a stone bench and drank the water. He dipped bread into the bowl and ate slowly. The warmth filled him. "You have a match today," she said. John paused. He had not known. "Against whom?" he asked. Lisa hesitated. Susan said it might be Kor's brother. John's heart tightened. He remembered Kor's fierce eyes in the first fight. Facing a relative meant facing a fighter hungry for revenge. He swallowed. Lisa touched his arm. "You can do it. You have grown stronger." John nodded and stood. He followed Lisa to the arena. The crowd gathered under a rising sun. The seats were full. Alien voices rose like thunder. Lisa led John to the gate. He stepped inside and felt the heat of the arena floor. He raised his shield and spear. He scanned the stands. He saw Varg watching from a platform. He saw trainers and fighters lining the edge. San stood opposite him. His scales shone under the light. He held a spear that looked familiar. John took a steady breath. San lowered his weapon. He spoke softly. "You face mine today. Treat him." While John nodded, Sun walked away. John looked at the open gate on his side. His opponent stepped out. The alien was tall and lean. His skin was pale. He had a single horn. He held a spear with a jagged head. John recognized the face beneath the helmet. It was Kor's brother Marn. He had the same green skin but a thinner build. His eyes glowed with anger. John remembered the first fight. His broken spear had cut Kor. Marn's eyes fixed on John. He did not speak. The referee raised the flags. The crowd fell quiet. The fight began. Marn charged. His spear moved like lightning. John raised his shield. The impact rang through his arm. He staggered, but he held. He drove his spear forward. The head scraped Marn's armor. No blood came. But the sound was sharp. Marn roared and swung his spear down. John pushed the shield up to block. The force threw him back. He landed hard on one knee. The sand gave under his weight. He forced himself up. He gripped his spear tightly. He circled. Slowly he forced Marn to follow. He studied Marn's moves. He saw the patterns, 3 quick jabs, then a wide swing. When Marn attacked again, John sidestepped the jabs. He planted his foot and braced his shield. He thrust his spear under Marn's guard and into his thigh. Marn hissed and lifted his leg. The crowd gasped. Marn's arm trembled as he moved the spear. John pressed the advantage. He moved forward. Marn backed away, wounded. Marn changed tactics. He feigned left and then lunged right. John saw the move too late. Marn's spear grazed his shoulder. Heat blossomed on his skin. He shook his arm to clear the pain. He tightened his grip and raised his shield. He set his feet and breathed in. He thought of Lisa's advice. Focus on your defense. He remembered the footwork lines on the mat. He shifted his stance. Marn attacked again. John met the spear with shield. He twisted his body and rolled with the blow. Marn's spearhead bit into the sand. John seized the moment and drove his spear under Marn's arm into his side. Marn's eyes widened. He dropped his spear and clutched his side. He looked at John with a mix of pain and respect. The referee called an end. The crowd was silent, then erupted. They cheered for John's victory. A few stood and clapped. John lowered his spear. He felt both relief and exhaustion. He limped toward the exit. Lisa ran to him and helped support his weight. She guided him. to a bench near the tent. She helped him remove his armor. He winced at the cut on his shoulder. She cleaned it and wrapped it in bandages. "You did well," she said. "Your defense was strong." John nodded. He closed his eyes. He leaned back and let the tent shade comfort him. Lisa watched him with concern. "Rest now. Tomorrow you fight in the arena again." John opened his eyes. "Another match?" he asked, voice low. Lisa sighed. "You are now a champion contender? You face stronger opponents?" John closed his eyes. He felt the weight of the season ahead. He thought of his people. He thought of the hope they placed in him. He reached out and held Lisa's hand. "I will not let them down." Lisa smiled. "Then sleep now." He lay down and looked up at the tent roof. He thought of the arena lights and the crowd's roar. He heard Varg's voice praising him. He felt the cool touch of the new chest plate. He felt the warmth of Lisa's hand. He drifted into sleep. His dreams were calmer. He saw himself winning more fights. He saw children cheering his name. He saw a warm hall filled with his people, safe. He woke at dusk. The firelight burned orange through the tent flap. He sat up and stretched. He felt ready. He stood and donned his armor. He strapped on his shield and picked up his spear. He stepped outside. The arena was quiet at night. He walked to the edge and looked at the sands. He remembered every fight, every lesson. Varg approached. He held a small chest in his hand. He offered it to John. "Open it," Varg said. John lifted the lid. Inside lay a small badge of silver and green. It was shaped like a spearhead. "This is the mark of a champion," Varg said. "Wear it with pride." John took the badge and pinned it to his chest plate. He looked at it, then at Varg. "Thank you," he said. Varg nodded. "Rest now? Tomorrow a new day begins?" John watched Varg walk away. He felt both nervous and proud. He turned and walked back to his tent. He looked at the stars and whispered, "For my people." He entered the tent and lay on his cot. He held the badge in his hand. He closed his eyes and let sleep take him, ready for the dawn. John woke to a cool breeze brushing the tent flap. It was dawn, but the sky held soft colors of pink and orange. He felt the weight of yesterday's events lying heavy in his mind. He sat on the edge of the cot and flexed his arms. His wounds had nearly healed. His new chest plate still felt snug and firm. He rose and donned his armor. Each piece fit better now. He strapped on the plate of polished steel over his rusted suit. He reached for his broken spear. The head was bent but solid. He carried it. As a reminder of his first triumph, he stepped outside. The training circle lay silent in the early light. The gates were closed. The sand was cool under his boots. He breathed deep and looked at the sky. Small ships drifted above the arena walls. He felt both small and determined. Lisa stepped from the shadows. She carried a small satchel and a water flask. "Good morning," she said. John smiled. "Good morning." She handed him the flask. "You must stay hydrated today." He accepted it and took a long drink. "Thank you." She picked up the satchel. "Here is clean fabric and healing salve. The medics asked me to bring it." John opened the bag. Inside were small squares of cloth and jars of ointment. He nodded gratefully. He asked, "What is today's schedule?" Lisa looked down. "You have one training match. Then you enter the arena for the final fight." John's heart skipped. The final fight meant the championship. He felt a rush of fear and excitement. He steadied his breath. "How many opponents?" he asked. Lisa glanced at her datapad. 3. You fight each in turn. The last one is the current champion." John nodded. He raised his chin. "I understand." They walked together to the circle's entrance. The gates opened and John stepped into the warm sand. 3 fighters approached from the opposite gate. They all wore fine armor and carried spear and shield. The first opponent was Darrow, a lean alien with purple skin and long limbs. He held a slender spear. He bowed slightly to John before taking a guard stance. The referee blew a whistle. Darrow lunged. His spear moved like a whip. John raised his shield and deflected the blow. He countered with his spear, tapping Darrow's side. Darrow hissed and darted back. John pressed forward, forcing Darrow to retreat. A swift move ended the fight. John feinted left, then struck Darrow's knee. Darrow fell to one knee and raised his hand. The referee signaled John's victory. John lowered his shield and stood straight. He felt his heart race. Darrow nodded respectfully and left the circle. The second opponent was Myra, a fierce warrior with red eyes and dark hair. She carried a heavy spear tipped with crystal. She wore silver armor over black plating. Myra charged immediately. John barely raised his shield in time. The impact shook his arm. He winced but held firm. Myra moved fast, thrusting and spinning. John blocked each strike, step by step. He saw an opening when Myra overextended. He stepped inside her guard and tapped her shoulder armor. She stumbled, and John pushed his shield into her chest. Myra fell and dropped her spear. The referee called the match. John breathed hard. He felt sweat on his brow. He lowered his weapons and nodded to Myra. She offered a small smile before walking away. The crowd for the circle training applauded quietly. John felt both relief and fatigue. He looked toward the arena gates. Beyond them lay the main stage. Lisa stood at the gate. She held a cloth. She said, "Your final is next. Rest now." John drank water and applied salve to a bruise on his ribs. He massaged his arms to ease stiffness. He straightened and looked at Lisa. "Thank you," he said. Lisa smiled. "May your courage guide you." John stepped through the circle gate into a corridor leading to the arena. He heard the roar of the crowd growing. He breathed deeply to steady himself. The corridor opened onto the grand arena. It was larger than the circle. High walls rose like cliffs. Bright lights shone on the sandy floor. Thousands of spectators filled the stands. They cheered and waved. Flags. At the center stood the final champion. She was tall and lithe, with silver armor and a spear that glowed faintly. She held her weapon at ease, as if waiting for John. Varg stood beside her. He projected calm authority. He spoke into a device, and his voice echoed. "Today, the human champion faces our reigning master, Aaron of the Silver Guard. Let the final match begin." The crowd cheered wildly. John raised his shield and spear. He stepped into the arena. The sand felt unfamiliar under his boots. He remembered every lesson and fight. He remembered his people. Aaron bowed her head briefly. John bowed back. The referee raised two flags. When the flags dropped, they both lunged. Aaron's strikes were quick and precise. Each blow tested John's defense. He blocked and parried, following each strike with careful steps. He felt the heat of the fight in his blood. He sensed the rhythm of Aaron's moves. He replied with measured thrusts and pushes. They clashed at the center. John braced his shield and pressed Aaron back. She spun and struck his spear, shattering a small piece of metal. John stumbled. He steadied himself. He heard Lisa's voice in his mind. "Trust your instincts." He inhaled deeply. He felt calm. Aaron attacked again. John used the old trick he learned from his first fight. He let the spear strike his shield, then twisted his body and pushed forward. His spear slid past Aaron's guard and cut her thigh. Aaron gasped. She dropped her shield and steadied herself with her spear. Blood glinted on her armor. John saw the moment and seized it. He pressed forward, using the weight of his chest plate and strength from his legs. He drove Aaron to the sand. She knelt, her spear point in the ground. John held his shield high and spear ready. Aaron raised her hand in surrender. The referee called the end. The crowd fell silent. Then they erupted in the loudest roar John had ever heard. They chanted his name. Varg stepped into the arena and bowed deeply to John. Aaron rose and offered her hand. John took it and helped her to her feet. Lisa ran into the arena, her eyes bright with joy. She embraced John. "You did it," she said. John looked at the crowd and felt warmth flood him. He held up his spear and shield. He felt tears blur his vision. Varg spoke to the crowd. "All hail John, champion of the arena." The crowd cheered. Again, John staggered but held firm. He felt his people's hopes in his heart. He knew this victory meant more than a title. It meant a future. As the sun climbed higher, John stood with Lisa and Varg. He held the champion's badge of Spearhead. He looked at his broken spear, then at the new armor plate. He felt pride. he whispered to Lisa. "We did it." She smiled and nodded. He raised his eyes to the sky. He spoke softly. "For them," the wind carried his words across the arena. John, the human with rusted armor and a shattered spear, had become a hero. His journey had tested him. His courage had won him a new life and new hope.